The gods did not chain Fenrir because he had already destroyed the world. They chained him because they were told he would. That is the tragedy of Fenrir. Before he breaks the sky, before he swallows Odin, before Ragnarok turns prophecy into fire, Fenrir is not yet the end of the world. He is a wolf. A dangerous wolf, yes. A child of Loki, yes. A creature growing too large for comfort, yes. But the thing that makes the gods afraid is not only his teeth. It is the future. They look at him and do not see what he has done. They see what he is supposed to become. And once a powerful people decide that the future is guilty, they begin to treat the present like a crime scene. In the old Norse stories, the gods are not innocent children watching darkness arrive. They know things. They hear prophecies. They are warned that the order they built will one day break. The wolf Fenrir will have a part in that breaking. He will become one of the great signs of Ragnarok, the doom of the gods. And in that final storm, Odin himself will face him. So the gods do what rulers, families, armies, and frightened nations have done for centuries. They try to control the thing they fear before it can control them. At first, Fenrir grows among them. Imagine that. Not a monster far away in the dark, not a beast at the edge of the map. Inside the world of the gods, fed by their hands, watched by their eyes, growing in their halls. Every day he becomes larger. Every day the prophecy becomes harder to ignore. The gods can tell themselves they are being careful. They can tell themselves they are protecting the world. They can tell themselves that fear is wisdom when the danger is big enough. But fear has a strange habit. It calls itself preparation. Then it becomes punishment. The first chains are simple, heavy iron, visible strength, the kind of power that looks like power. The gods bring the chain to Fenrir as a test. Perhaps they smile. Perhaps they tell him it is only a game. Try your strength. Show us what you can do. Fenrir lets them bind him. Then he breaks the chain, so they try again. A stronger chain, a better chain, a heavier answer to the same fear. Fenrir breaks that too. This is the first lesson of the myth. Not every fear can be solved by adding more iron. The gods are facing something worse than strength. They are facing a future that refuses to behave. So they turn to something stranger. Not a chain that looks strong, a chain that looks impossible. Gleipnir. Thin, soft, almost harmless. In some tellings, it is made from things that should not be materials at all. The sound of a cat's footfall, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain, the breath of a fish, the spit of a bird. The point is not chemistry. The point is that real power does not always arrive looking like power. Sometimes the thing that holds you is not the iron around your body, it is the story around your name. When Fenrir sees the new chain, he understands something is wrong. He has broken heavy chains before, but this one is too light, too clean, too clever. It does not look like a challenge, it looks like a trick. So Fenrir asks for a guarantee. If this is only a test, let one of you place a hand in my mouth. The gods understand the cost immediately, because this is no longer just about binding a wolf. This is about whether the gods can lie and still call themselves just. One god steps forward. Tyr. He places his hand between Fenrir's jaws. That image is the heart of the story. Not the end of the world, not the fire, not the battlefield. A hand, a mouth, a promise. For one moment, the whole myth becomes small enough to understand. Trust has entered the jaws of fear. Fenrir allows the chain. The gods bind him. He pulls. Gleipnir does not break. He pulls again. The impossible chain holds, and now Fenrir knows. This was never a test. It was a sentence. So he bites down. Tyr loses his hand, and the gods keep their future safe. At least, that is what they believe. But this is where Fenrir becomes more than a giant wolf. Because a monster chained for what he might do is not the same as a monster defeated for what he has done. The gods do not remove danger from the world. They store it. They bury it under stone. They silence it under prophecy. They turn a living fear into a waiting one. Fenrir lies bound, not dead, waiting. That is why the image is so powerful. The wolf does not have to move for the scene to feel alive. The chain is the movement. The silence is the threat. The eye that stays open is the future refusing to disappear. And somewhere in that silence, the moral shape of the story changes. Was Fenrir always going to become the enemy of the gods? Or did the gods make him one by treating him as the enemy first? Myths do not always answer questions like courts. They do something older. They leave the question inside an image, a wolf under the earth, a missing hand, a chain that looks too thin to matter. Then Ragnarok comes. The old order begins to break. The sky darkens. The world shakes. The boundaries that kept terror in its place begin to fail. And Fenrir breaks free. This is not just revenge. It is the return of everything the gods tried to hide instead of understand. The wolf rises out of the future they feared. The chain is gone. The silence is over. The prophecy has teeth. Odin, the seeker of wisdom, the god who gave so much to know what others could not, meets the thing his world could not escape. And Fenrir swallows him. That is the terrible beauty of the story. The wisest god knows the future. The gods act to prevent it. But every act of prevention tightens the path toward it. The chain does not defeat fate. The chain becomes one of fate's tools. This is why Fenrir still matters. Not because people are secretly wolves. Not because strength always wins. Not because every prophecy must come true. Fenrir matters because the story understands something painfully human. When we fear what someone might become, we can begin to treat them as if they have already become it. And once we do that, we may help create the very thing we are trying to stop. The gods wanted safety, so they chose control. They wanted to defeat the future, so they betrayed the present. They wanted the wolf to stay harmless, so they taught him what the world looked like when it lied. By the time Fenrir opens his jaws at the end of the world, he is no longer only Loki's child. He is the child of divine fear. The gods made a chain to hold him, but the chain also held a question. If you punish the future before it arrives, what kind of future are you building? After Ragnarok, after the gods fall, after the noise ends, imagine what remains. Snow, ash, broken iron, and somewhere in the silence, a chain that once looked too thin to matter. Fenrir was not just the wolf who ended a god. He was the warning that fear can become a maker. And sometimes the monsters we fear most are not born from hatred. Sometimes they are made by the hands that tried to bind them.